Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakahakodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video I'll be profiling an article from the economiccollapseblog.com titled "Food Lines Get Depressingly Long in the US Again as Crops Fail All Over the Globe." And as we'll see in this article, this whole food situation going on in the United States of America and globally is just getting worse with each passing day. And what it's ultimately going to lead to are the biblical famines that Yahawashi HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, spoke about in Matthew chapter 24. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. And this is speaking of what would be taking place in the last days. And really, we're living in the last seconds of the last days before Yahawashi HaMashiach's second coming, the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the biblical Edomites, who are known as the so-called white people today, and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And if you've got a spiritual eye salve, you can clearly see that these end-time signs and prophecies are either in the process of taking place or taking place as we speak. For nation shall rise against nation, racial tensions, and kingdom against kingdom, these major countries going at each other, and there shall be famines, which we're about to read about, and pestilences, the C19, the Omarion, BA.5, the monkey, POX, Marburg, you name it, and earthquakes in diverse places. And earthquakes are happening damn near daily all across the planet. But as it says in verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. We're just in the beginning stages right now, which is what you'll further see when we go through that article. Things are starting to ramp up, leading towards these famines that are quickly coming. And hey, it's going to get so bad out here to where people that used to be friends or close family members are going to fight each other like enemies just to get their hands on whatever food is left. And Apostle Tahar has deemed 2022 to be the year of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi turning things up. And we can see that things are turning up exponentially. And so you better buckle up because we're in for one hell of a bumpy ride. But let's get back into this article. It is happening again. Lines at food banks all across the country are getting extremely long. And remember back when these lockdowns for the C19 were in full effect, you had a lot of people going to food banks, flooding them all across the country to the point to where they ran out of food. And people managed to stay civil during those lockdowns and shortages in these stores, as well as with these food banks. But as we progress closer and closer to all hell breaking loose during Jacob's trouble, this civility that people are still to some extent able to keep up is going to completely shatter. And you're going to see just how savage and violent and animalistic these people can get. And this is happening even though we are still only in the very early stages of the next major economic downturn. If the lines are this long already, what will they look like 6 months or a year from now? Since the beginning of 2022, I have been relentlessly warning my readers about the rapidly emerging food crisis that we are witnessing all over the globe. Food supplies have been getting tighter and tighter, and now insane weather patterns are causing crops to fail throughout the northern hemisphere. We really are moving into unprecedented territory, but this hasn't really hit home with the general population yet. Hey, we're in the beginning of sorrows. And a lot of other events that are taking place out here that are contributing to these coming food shortages are being orchestrated by the elites, such as the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, DuPonts, Gettys, Massimos, Merovingians, you name it, to bring, as they say, ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. Get you people desperate, scared, and hungry out here so you're willing to accept whatever solution they bring to you. that GREATRESET, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, their NW0, which is mainly going to be predicated upon you people receiving that charagma in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, the MARKOFTHEBEAST, which of course is the RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT. And some examples of the elites further expounding upon these coming food shortages is look at all these food processing plants in not just the United States, but globally, that have mysteriously burnt down or been destroyed. And then also, we can't forget that there are high diesel fuel prices out here, as well as talks of diesel shortages and shortages on engine oil for diesel engines. And you've already got examples of truckers across the country starting to park their trucks because they just can't afford to get diesel fuel. And with them not being able to get diesel engine oil for their diesel engines, they won't be able to run those trucks. And you've got people that manufacture that diesel engine oil saying that very soon they're going to be out and don't expect to get any more diesel engine oil until sometime into 2023. So if truck drivers aren't able to make their runs, what does that mean? They aren't able to deliver goods to these stores, which is going to lead to emptier and emptier shelves. Personally, I didn't expect to see a huge surge in demand at food banks around the nation until the summer was over. But according to ABC News, the surge that so many of us have been anticipating is already here. Long lines are back at food banks around the U.S. as working Americans, overwhelmed by inflation, turn to handouts to help feed their families, with gas prices soaring along with grocery costs. And we can't forget inflation as well, which is going to further expound upon these problems. With the very few goods that are available, people won't be able to afford them. So what's that going to lead to? People starting to steal goods in mass numbers, which has already taken place. I did a video a couple of months ago showing that in some Walmarts, they're putting little metal cages over meat products like steaks with sensors on it because they're having people just steal them in mass numbers. And then you've got a YouTuber named Southern Prepper One who does his boots on the ground report, where he gets messages from people all over the country talking about empty store shelves, destroyed croplands they see, truckers parked along the side of the road because they can't afford diesel fuel, and seeing people stealing from these grocery stores or Walmarts. He had one person say that somebody got a tote bag to buy, but they only scanned the tote bag so they could pay for it. But while they just scanned the tote bag, it was full of stolen items like food and other necessities. These things are only going to ramp up as inflation increases, these shortages increases, people continue to lose their jobs or can't pay for their homes, etc., etc. With gas prices soaring along with grocery costs, many people are seeking charitable food for the first time, and more are arriving on foot. And these food banks can only be able to keep food for so long. Like I said at the beginning of the video, when these food banks were really getting hit in the height of the C-19 lockdowns, a lot of them were running out of food. And a lot of these food banks receive charitable donations from regular people as well as stores. But if regular people's pockets are tight and they can't even really find food or afford to get the food that they want, they won't have excess food to donate. And these stores, it'll be the same situation for them, with these trucks not being able to deliver the goods that they need, and them already having very bare store shelves. It is certainly true that the cost of living is quickly eating away at our standard of living. A single shopping cart full of food can now easily cost $250 or $300 at this point. And as a result, more struggling families are turning to food banks for some assistance. In Phoenix, one food bank recently reported a 78% increase in demand compared to the same time last year. The Phoenix Food Bank's main distribution center doled out food packages to 4,271 families during the third week in June, a 78% increase over 2,396 families served during the same week last year, said St. Mary's spokesman Jerry Brown. I was extremely alarmed when I first read about that. Have things really gotten this bad already? And remember, the beginning of sorrows. And if these food banks see their numbers increase of people coming to get food, they're going to eventually run out, like they did during the C-19 lockdowns. And on top of that, with goods, with the supply chain disruptions leading to goods not being able to get to these stores, it's going to lead to empty store shelves, which is also prophesied in the scriptures. This is 2 Esdras chapter 6 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses, these food banks, Walmarts, Rouse's, Kroger's, Publix, whatever grocery store you have in your area, shall suddenly be found empty. Supply chain disruptions leading to empty store shelves, truckers not delivering goods to these stores, leading to empty storehouses, and adverse weather events affecting farmers' abilities to plant and cultivate their crops, further expounding upon empty store shelves. And like I said earlier, a lot of these food processing plants mysteriously burning down or being destroyed all across the country, even further leading to the full storehouses suddenly being found empty. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time, when the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty, shall friends fight one against another like enemies, because hunger is one of the greatest motivators out there. And when somebody's belly is touching their back, or they're having to watch their loved ones starve, their priorities become very simple in that day. Eat or don't eat, kill or be killed, dog eat dog, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. And don't be surprised when you see similar events like what took place during the first round of lockdowns, when people were actually fighting each other at these stores to get their hands on the limited goods that were available. I saw a clip of 2 people fighting over a case of water, and one person actually stabbed another person for that case of water. But this time it's going to be much worse. And once those full storehouses are found empty and people can't get goods at these stores, they're going to start breaking into each other's houses, home invasions, and taking things. This is 2 Esdras chapter 15, verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, and at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. And the modern day sword, especially in the United States of America, is the gun, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, food shortages, famines, and for great tribulation, all the other calamities that Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi is bringing upon you people as judgment and punishment for the wickedness you've been committing. One woman that was interviewed said that she was willing to wait in such a long line because it's really impossible to get by now without some help. Thomasina John was among hundreds of families lined up in several lanes of cars that went around the block one recent day outside of St. Mary's Food Bank in Phoenix. John said her family had never visited a food bank before because her husband had easily supported her and their 4 children with his construction work. But it's really impossible to get by now without some help, said John, who traveled with a neighbor to share gas costs as they idled under a scorching desert sun. The prices are too high. And we also can't forget that these gas prices are rising. $5, $6 now, and don't be surprised if you see it go up to $7, $8, $9, $10. And remember that these truckers also deliver fuel to these gas stations. So what happens if they're not able to deliver regular gas to these gas stations? People won't be able to fill up their cars, further expounding upon all these problems. Unfortunately, things are only going to get worse in the months ahead. And that's a very true statement. Remember back in Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. That's pretty much it with this article. You get the point. But now I'm going to close it out. In 2nd Esdras chapter 16, I'm going to start at verse 17. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? Hey, if you're an Israelite or a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, even an Israelite foreigner that looks like these heathen nations, but you've come across the words of the prophets of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, and the words of these scriptures have stirred a spirit in you to come to the realization that you're an Israelite, the thing you can do right now is do everything in your power to stay in the good graces of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, so you can hope to have that protective hedge over you and be safe from these coming calamities of Jacob's trouble, which when we read articles like on the economiccollapseblog.com, we can see are quickly coming our way. Verse 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine for a second time, and plague. Tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, scourges for correction, scourges for punishment, scourges for judgment from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai on you people for the wickedness you've been committing. Chiefly you Edomites, or so-called white people that do everything clean contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and have turned most of this planet into a trash can. And the wicked of our people, 2/3 in America, and the rest of the wicked globally, who are hard-headed and refuse to return unto Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. And we can clearly see that right now. We've got information like what we read about on the economiccollapseblog.com, and even the mainstream media now talking about the possibility of food shortages, inflation, recession, and economic collapse. But for the majority of people out here, they're not mindful of it. They think that since things were relatively good for the last 70 to 80 years, this is just a little bump in the road. Things are going to get back to normal like they have. There won't be a World War III, another Great Depression, food shortages, a civil war, race wars, or a state of martial law. You people are sadly mistaken. Verse 21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth. Sword, famine for a third time, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of what? Famine. And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Hey, if you're not of that elect number, and you manage to escape starving to death in the times of Jacob's trouble, the only thing you have to look forward to is getting killed in these civil or race wars which are going to kick off. Hey, getting killed by these FEMA troops or UN troops or mercenaries during a state of martial law, getting sent to a concentration camp and tortured to death, or being drafted to go fight in World War III, or ultimately being killed by one of those nuclear-tipped ICBMs when they begin to be shot to the ends of the earth at some point during World War III. Verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung or shit, and there shall be no man to comfort them. So many dead bodies out here that they won't be able to be buried, and people are going to become so emotionally numb in that day from seeing all those dead bodies that they're just going to step over them and not give a second thought to it, like they don't give a second thought to that turd that they flushed down the toilet. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. And so as we can clearly see, we're in the beginning of sorrows, and with each passing day, the only thing that's in the news now is lamentations, mourning, and woe. It's going to get worse from here on out. So to you sincere Akim and Akwat out there, just keep doing what you're doing right now, doing your best to stay in the good graces of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, so you can hope to be of that elect number and be saved from these coming calamities of Jacob's trouble. Remember what it said, and let's get it. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 13. because these judgments to come are for the wicked, especially the wicked of our people. But as for those that are doing their best to follow after the ways of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai and take themselves out of the ways of this world, this is Isaiah 65 verse 13. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. Hey, to the hopeful elect out there, Abarat Dazah, we're of that number. The Most High will find a way for us to make it through these calamities of Jacob's trouble. Again, we just need to stay good on our end of the bargain and follow after the Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai with all our heart. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.